So the U.S. is in a lot of ways leading what's going on in additive manufacturing, but in other ways it is trailing ultimately. So one of the things that we're seeing at America Makes is the really demand or the signal from our membership or the community to shift towards application-centric activities. So one of the things, ultimately we do a lot of applied research. So we're looking to mature technology, move it forward, get it closer to commercialization. But one of the things that is a bit challenging is if you don't have that centered around a specific, application or area where you're going to ultimately implement it, we're not seeing it adopted as quickly, or we're not seeing it actually transition, get to the point of technology being commercialized and then being realized as a capability in industry that we're able to take advantage of. So within our community, there's been a big push towards people agreeing to come together to talk about what applications are they interested in. So this is really across different industry sectors. What is it that maybe oil and gas cares about, or medical or defense? And then is there a way that we can look across those different industry sectors and application areas and then scope program work such that we're able to build projects in a manner that we can, again, continue to work pre-competitively, maturing technology, but it's something that is more, we can more easily transition into industry and into real applications that we're using every day. So the U.S. is in a lot of ways leading what's going on in additive manufacturing, but in other ways it is trailing ultimately. So again, the AM sector in the U.S. is very strong as you compare it to what's going on around the globe, and that's recognized and widely known. You can see in a variety of different reports, and in certain areas, because we're using it so much, we're leading certain activities. But in other areas, in particular, around machines and materials, we're maybe lagging other parts of the globe, and some of it is because of the organizations that have been involved and historically have built some of the capability. On the material side, it's a different story. Some of that is of current availability of where we're able to mine resources and ultimately process them such that we're able to make them available. So it depends on what you're talking about when we think of additive, on whether the U.S. is leading or tailing, a different part of the country, or a different part of the globe. But I would say it's recognized as an area of opportunity. So there are many activities within the U.S., specifically within the Department of Defense, where we have identified, kind of national security capabilities that we know we need to have in place, and we are not willing to rely on someone else to provide. So again, I think this is, if you connect that with this idea that we need to become more application-centric, you can start to see where those, where the opportunity space actually comes in. And at that point, it creates opportunities for businesses. If there's enough clear demand signal, we're certain that the manufacturing base and the OEMs and the systems integrators and material providers will respond quickly and promptly in order to meet that need. Yeah, so one of the things that we're trying to do at America Makes is try to get a true handle on where we're at. What does the job base look like, and what are the different types of careers that you're able to enter into the workforce in, and then even maybe more importantly, mature throughout the course of your career, so that there's actually kind of a escalation ladder, if you will, or a ladder that you can move through if you were to come into this technology space. So we work with lots of different folks. We work with SME and other organizations to try to define what are the competencies that somebody needs to have, and then how do we build credentials. That's a big part of what we're working on. We work on it with SME actually a lot to make sure that the work we're doing comes with credentials such that you can move around. So one of the things that we don't want to create is a situation where I get trained in one organization and it's not transferable to another organization. So again, as a relatively new industry, we're learning a lot of this. We're having to mature somewhat on the fly, dynamically, as we're presented with these different challenges. The good news is there's a lot of interest in the kind of K through 12 system in the technology. So it's taught pretty regularly, or at least there's some exposure to it. And what we think is that there's going to be a big increasing slope to the curve here soon is in the area of design for manufacturing, or design for additive manufacturing, because people like myself have been out in the workforce for decades at this point in time. I didn't learn any of that when I was in school. So many of us are having to retrain ourselves, whereas this new workforce coming in at least has exposure, and they're not limited in the way that they think that something can be done. So again, there's a lot of opportunity. What we're trying, what we need to figure out is how much opportunity is there? What do careers look like? We have a really interesting project right now going on where you actually we've worked with an organization to see yourself in the shoes of a different person that might be, a designer, a clothing designer, of how could you use additive for that, or an industrial designer, or maybe a more traditional mechanical engineer, and where additive fits into a particular component that goes into a subsystem. So there's so many different ways. It's truly about awareness. So education is coming along. The awareness side is where there's a lot of need. And then there's a big need on within households, to be honest, so that people understand the opportunities that are out there, specifically in advanced manufacturing jobs, what that looks like, how that is very different than what it looked like, even 10 years ago or 20 years ago, when maybe their parents were considering what their careers are. So there's lots of awareness opportunities for us all. Big priorities for us at the Institute. We've been doing a lot of work in generating materials data and maturing the accessibility of data to the community. So one of the things that holds everyone back is access to information. And that holds true here within the additive manufacturing industry as well. So what we're working on, and there's a couple of large programs, funded through different activities, particularly defense is funding some activities around generation of allowables data that we can learn how to design with, such that we can produce components with on the back end. So a lot of work going on within our community in that space right now.